All right, hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode here on the Matt Listownia Show. We have some pretty exciting, some pretty cool stuff. Actually, on the Matt and Adam Show, the other podcast, if you're not familiar, I co-host a show with Adam Messer, and we just kicked off a really cool mini series of sorts, and we kind of get on these tracks and these thoughts where we want to string together a cohesive kind of like a mini series, right? It's we take an idea and we expand upon it, but instead of having you follow along for about an hour or so like we do here, there we chunk every episode every week down to 15 minutes, and we take similar ideas to what we discuss on this show, but we take my perspective and we bounce it off and against Adam's as well, and we go back and forth on kind of how we lead those different ideas, and when we focus it down to 15 minutes of grit, doing the work, and why it matters, right? And so it's really straightforward, and it's really it's good bite-sized chunks for people kind of on the go. We want to make it a little bit more easily digestible, especially for people that are just starting to become familiarized with taking control of their own lives and taking on their personal responsibility of if they want improvement in their life, then you got to be the one that's going to choose it. And so we help simplify some of these ideas and really and focus in, and do these laser focused 15-minute sessions. And so we just started a mini series that's going to take us probably through at least most way into December. And it's really great because it's a really great way to kind of walk your way out of 2020 and into 2021. And this would be good for any sort of year transition point, when you're thinking about starting a new year and the goals and the resolutions and how you want your life to be in that next year. This is for people that don't find themselves doing that planning, doing that 5-year planning. This is kind of a common 1-year plan that we all get motivated by, or at least have some awareness of the fact that there is a new beginning. Things are kind of starting over, in some sense, and more so mentally. If you take the time to really think about it, it's more so it's happening mentally than it is in actuality, because it's not like your job is starting over. It's not like your family or your relationships are truly starting over, but it's a chance. It is a community. It is an at-large kind of like an agreement that we have, that January is a time when we get to dream big and think about how we could live a different and better and more meaningful and fulfilling life. And that's really what our series is going to do. It helps address it. It's going to walk you right into 2021 in a very powerful way. And what we're doing is we're breaking down SWOT and SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, obstacles, threat, and Adam added on a fifth one, an extra T, which is his specialty. So, but it's great. And so we knocked out a couple of the recordings for that series today, and we're gonna knock out some more later. But I know actually this is a day late, and I apologize to you guys for that. I try to come consistent to you, and sometimes things come up, and you have to make a decision on what it is that you're going to do and what you're going to prioritize. And I knew that I was going to be able to sit down and really give you guys the due diligence that I wanted to today and not yesterday. It was going to be trying to squeeze too much stuff. And that kind of seems to be the way that Thursdays kind of are and will be until about mid-December. And so the goal still is every week to get content out and to get this show out to you guys every Thursday. Now, realistically, I know that Thursdays do find themselves getting really jam packed, and so in an effort to both handle the world that we really live in and the world that I want to live in, like I said, my goal is still every Thursday, but there is flexibility where it may be Fridays. But really, we should be zoning down and getting really, really consistent here come mid-December going into the new year. And I'm really excited about that. It's gonna be a fantastic transition, and there's gonna be a lot of not necessarily a lot of changes to this show, but there's gonna be a lot of changes to Matt LaStalia Inc. And there's gonna be a lot of really cool new content coming out to you guys. Additionally, on 11/18, when did I start? Can I see some details? Additionally, there's some exciting stuff happening in my personal life. So today was really cool because, like I said, I had recorded with Adam, but as most days start, I got up right around 5, and today I actually slept until I was probably awake at 5, really like 4:30, but I didn't get out of bed and moving until about 5:45, and so a little bit later than normal, but. And that's not to make anyone like feel bad, but that's a chance. The early morning hours for me are a chance to really get a lot of work done. And today was kind of just a great example of that, because before 9:00, I had prepped for this show. I had done some calculus homework for school. I had dropped my stepdaughter off at her kind of daycare center place, and made a U-Haul appointment, called in some medications for a pickup for a refill, and listened to another chapter of this Frederick Douglass book, and the U-Haul appointment that I made was actually for a motorcycle trailer, because today I will be going, in theory, if this bike is still there, and it was there yesterday. No promises that nobody will come pick it up, but today I will be going to Maryland to pick up a motorcycle. And so I needed to kind of lay the groundwork, and I needed to get a lot of things done. Things needed to move. And also, I packed all of the riding gear and stuff into the truck. And so like all of this stuff happened before 9:00. So like by the time people are getting to work, I had already accomplished all of these things. And it was such a great feeling to have all of that under my belt, between the recordings and the appointments and the calls that I needed to make, and getting all of the logistics kind of taken care of. And it was a really, really good morning. And interestingly enough, it wasn't good enough, right? Like, and from my perspective, there's always room for more. There's always room for a little bit of growth. And I really wanted to get a workout in this morning. I wanted to break a sweat this morning, and that didn't really, I couldn't find a way to get that in with prioritizing the time sensitive things that I had on my schedule. And so again, you have to prioritize. You have to make a decision of what is going to be your priority. Because if everything is a priority, nothing's a priority. If everything's an emergency, nothing gets done, right? Nothing gets done in any sort of logical or a methodical manner. So that kind of leads into like the last little tidbit that I want to touch on. And this kind of actually brings us back to what we cover in this show a little bit more. And that is, now that I've been writing for a little while, I mean, not very much, I've gone out on like 3 rides essentially at this point. Like actually out on the outside of the course and just on the road riding. And there is something miraculous that I like to, that it hit me when I was riding, and it was, I refer to it now as meditation with a motor, right? And so That is to say that it is, when we think about meditation, meditation is the removal of thoughts, or kind of like the allowing of thoughts to come in and to go out, and it's to kind of give your brain some space to breathe, right? And to allow, for me, I've noticed that it's oftentimes it'll be times of creativity and good honest introspection, and a lot of that is based around silence. It's based around reducing the stimuli that are actually coming in, so that way we can focus on whatever it is that we actually want to focus on. And for that period of time, the focus isn't on accomplishing a task. It's on like clearing the mind. And so I know for me, a frequent strategy that I would use would be to focus on breathing, right? So the whole time I would be meditating, it would be, like count. It would almost be counting for breaths, right? So it'd be like counting 6 up, holding for 4, counting 6 as an exhale. And when I say up, I mean inhale, counting 6 seconds, inhale, holding for 4 seconds, releasing for 6 seconds, holding at the bottom of a breath with all the air out for another 4 seconds. And that would be, and I would do that for, kind of, I would never set a time, because the minute that I set like a timer, I'm like, I'm going to go meditate for 20 minutes. It turns into this other thing where my mind starts trying to program, or trying to like analyze how long I've been meditating versus how much I have left, and it's not helpful for me. So there just has to be kind of an open period of time where I'm like, I'm just going to go breathe it out, right, and just focus on breathing. And so I say all of that, and I bring that up as a reference point, because it's not thinking, right? It's like people who are not familiar with meditation will think of meditation as like a chance to clear your mind, as a chance to not think about things, and to push out thoughts and to think about nothing. Then that is Zen, and that is reaching nirvana. And shoot, I mean, maybe it is, but what I've seen, and from like real people that I know that meditate, and from myself, the benefit comes from singular focus on something that is not kind of goal oriented. For me, the easiest thing is breathing, right? And so bringing that back in kind of full circle, I was thinking about meditation with on the motorcycle. It hit me because the first time that we went out, there was no music, there was nothing, and you have the sound of the engine rumbling between your legs, and you have the wind coming at you, and you have to stay focused on the road and on the situation around you. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of inputs and there's a lot of stimuli, but it's not a cognitive inputs, right? It's not like ideas coming in. Like for me, a big problem that I have is I listen to a lot of media, and I watch a lot of shows, like podcasts about current events, about motivation, about resilience, just like this. I want to hear what other people are breaking in, as far as the industry, like what they're breaking into, and figure out if it's a bunch of BS, or if it's something that is actually like, wow, that's a really powerful tool. Like, I wonder, let me dive into that. Let me learn more about it and see if it's something that's good for you guys. And so what being on the motorcycle does is it really removes all of that, right? And so I have put on headphones as a way to listen to something. And so I was listening to a podcast while I was riding, but there's definitely there's even a portion of that where I just can't hear it. It's just so loud that you can't even hear it anyway. And then, and so I really like the idea of not doing it. If going for a longer ride or what have you, like obviously I'll probably throw some tunes on or listen to a show, but for a shorter rides and just going out riding for the sake of riding around locally, I really, really like the idea of going without any sort of input, because it gives me a chance to, it's another tool in my kit bag to help reduce stress, to help get my mind away from the focus on things, and just because you can only focus on them for so long before you have to deal with things that are happening in real life right around you immediately. So again, like dealing with the real world implications of riding a motorcycle around a bunch of cars, and with, you know, all the traffic and the obstacles and everything you have to maneuver around, then it's I view those as like the breathing. That's like the counting of the breathing. And so I'm focusing on that, and it's not allowing much room for focus outside of that. And it's the same thing with meditation, where you're focused on breathing, but the thoughts are coming in. But for me, the important part is allowing them to come in and allowing them to flow out. So like, I have that thought. Okay, go back, and now back to the breathing. So writing, it's like, okay, the thoughts are coming in and let them go out because I'm writing and I'm focused on the writing. And it's especially easy now because I'm a new writer. And so being particularly observant and careful is paramount, because I would like to keep writing and to keep coming and doing this show. And so I love it. It's just a great tool. And that should be all of like the admin non-show part of the show for y'all. So what I wanted to talk about today was actually really interesting. So when I was talking about, you know, like listening to shows and learning about new resilience techniques, or, you know, whatever, one of the things that I found myself doing recently was I actually really enjoy finding stories of people who have overcome obstacles to achieve prosperity, to achieve success. And it's just, I mean, that was kind of how all of this started, was when I go back to Burn Your Boats and that show and its focus on interviewing small, large, medium-sized business owners, artists, you know, all of these different people, these managers, you know, like not even necessarily leaders, all of these different people and all these different perspectives. It was really, really great. Because you got a feel of what it was like to need to push yourself and to overcome obstacles. Like none of these people got to this position without being able to overcome obstacles. And so for me, it's always been this like internal passion, this interest in hearing and about these stories. And I think it is kind of for all of us, because that's what a lot of movies are based around, is you have the hero's journey, you know, and you can lay that all. I don't remember the specific, you know, there's having a problem, falling down, finding a mentor, leaving the mentor, coming back to, you know, all of this stuff. But it's basically like you have a problem, you overcome the problem, and you're a hero, right? Like that's kind of the baseline for almost all movies that end with a good happy note. So like I've built Google alerts and things like that to help bring those into me, so I don't have to do as much manual scraping. So I set up some terms and some Boolean logic, and I have them filter into my feed, and I get a chance to review them, and it's been cool. A lot of times just for me, like, oh, that's cool, that's inspiring, and that's, you know, I get to read something kind of in the morning first thing. I've kind of added that into my morning routine, where I'm like, okay, let me ingest some positive, some overcoming stories, and I can and it just helps set the tone, right? Like it helps with my gratitude journaling, it helps with all of that. So it's a really, really cool practice. Now, this morning I came across a really interesting one that I had some mixed feelings about, we shall say. And I wanted to go over it with you to give you my perspective and to let you know, like, we have the ability to impact our own level of success so much by the simple framework that we put into place, and what we accept as where we're at, and what we accept, and where we place our future value, where we place our goals. Like how are we creating them? What's the premise for creating the goal? And a lot of this probably just sounds like super generalized. You're like, what are you talking about, really? Well, I didn't want to like give away the story before getting into the story, but let's dive right into it. Okay, so I found a story. It was called, Of All Things, Go Figure, Overcoming Obstacles. Now, the subtitle of this story is Gazette student columnist perseveres to achieve dream. Psychology major. Right? So cool, right? There's a gal, so it doesn't tell you here, but it's a woman who wanted to become a psychology major. And it's really interesting. So giving a like a kind of a basic overview of what it was about, she talks about wanting to become a psychology major. And then she talks about some of the hurdles that she needs to overcome in order to accomplish that goal, right? And so for her, one of the biggest things, and this made it extra interesting for me because I can specifically relate to it right now. Now, she talks about, being like, she talked about the prerequisites for becoming a psych major. And it was something to the effect of, and I closed out of it. Yeah, that's okay. It was something to the effect, it's just like most other degrees. Like, you have to have some English, you have to have some math, you gotta have some writing and whatever else electives. But you have to have some of these things knocked out in order to apply to have this as your major, to be and accepted into the program. And so she was taking the classes and she was like, I'm doing great in English, I'm doing great in these in history and these other things. But math, she's like, I was required to take calculus. And I was like, that sounds so incredibly familiar because I myself am currently taking calculus. And for some, this is really easy. And for others, this guy, it's not as easy. I put in more hours per week towards calculus than I do for this show. And that is mind-boggling. But it's one class, it's one time, it's all I have to take. So that's my motivation. That's where I keep my head around it. And the backdrop is, it's November 13th right now. It's Friday the 13th, which, happy Friday the 13th, by the way. But in less than a month, I'll be done with the class, as long as I pass. And all signs and indications point to that's not going to be an issue. But it was an issue for this gal. She failed the class 3 times. She either failed it 3 times and then went on to finally pass, or she took it 3 times and passed. She might have passed on the 3rd. Bottom line is, she took it several times, failed multiple times before getting to the point when she could barely eke by passing at the end. And none of this is meant as a dig, because obviously, like I just told you, I'm struggling myself. It's hard. It takes so much time and effort. And for other people that are getting it less than me, I can understand that struggle. It's very significant. So she talks about this. She talks about, I had to really keep my mind focused and not let myself go too far down the path of despair. I just wanted to keep working until the point where I could apply and never give up on myself. And one of the things that she talked about throughout it was really interesting, in the sense that she talked about the need to believe in yourself, right? She says that no matter how much, here, I even pulled it up here. The worst thing you can do, so this is a direct quote from her in the article. The worst thing that you can do is not to believe in yourself, because if you don't, no amount of support from anyone else is going to be able to convince you of your worth. I could not agree more. This is so good. This is a very, very, very important part of this article. This is the reason why I really liked it. This is a solid takeaway. So she said, so take this one life, and she gives a platitude. So take this one life that you have and do exactly what you want with it. And that's a beautiful sentiment. It's a beautiful platitude. One of those generalized statements, like, follow your dreams. Like, it's great. And I think that's really great. I think it's well worded. And she finishes that up with saying, "If I can do it, so can you," which is really great, because in the article she talks about how she's not great at math and how this is a really big struggle, and she had to fight harder and harder in order to overcome it. But she wasn't talking about overcoming math class. She was talking about her goal of becoming a psychology major, right? So in this, she overcame, and so, but during this process, she talked about, this is where we shift from the good. And so everything I just said is I love that about this. This is the part where it's a mixed bag, right? Of what she's saying. There's good and there's not so good. So she goes on to say, well, at a previous part, before that, she says, the worst thing, oh no, that's what I just read, sorry. Before that, she said, I still spent the winter semester and most of the summer worrying, doubting, and making plans for when I received another rejection letter. I tried not to get my hopes up. Right? So, okay. Where's how should we start? Good or bad? Let's start with good. So, the good is that she is going about this in a realistic manner, right? She's keeping her expectations in check in a way that, like, her entire future doesn't ride on the success of, or the acceptance letter that she's praying comes in the mail. And I think that's really good. I think that the good, specific good part about that, and where I extrapolated that from, is what she said, making plans for when I received another rejection letter. So she starts off with some bad, which is, she spent the winter semester and most of the summer worrying and doubting, right? If that worry and doubt is not backed by actions, then it is stress for the sake of stress. It's almost like self-gratifying stress, right? So she's stressing almost to make herself feel better. And this, again, this is not a dig at her specifically. This is a dig at this mentality. And this is something that we all do when we're stressing out and we're not taking action. We're stressing and we're viewing that stress as like, that is what we're doing. Like, the fact that we're having to deal with this stress is us accepting the risk, or the potential failure that could be in front of us, or the potential obstacle that could be ahead of us. That stress is like, well, okay, well, I'm dealing with the stress, and that's what I'm doing. I'm dealing with that. And that's just, it's not really a thing, but it's something that, like, it's hard in and of itself. And so trying to take action cannot necessarily be the most motivating thing for you to do, but it's the only thing that you could do that actually helps with it. It's taking action in the face of that stress, is using that worry, using that doubt to take action. And so I don't know what plans she was making. And that's the interesting part. And that's kind of where I really want to dive into this a little bit more, is there's two different aspects. And it kind of goes into where I see that the premise of this, and getting back to kind of where I started off with that real generalized statements about for the framework of your goals and everything being so important. And that's kind of the intent of today, is to discuss that. So the bad here in the article overall is, let's actually rewind back to the subtitle of the article, right? The article was entitled Overcoming Obstacles. The subtitle was Gazette Student Columnist Perseveres to Achieve Dream, Psychology Major. So what about that subtitle do you think is not good? Like, I categorized it as bad. Like, it is not good to the point where it is bad. It is not neutral, it is bad. And for me, it is the very last part. It's the goal itself. Her goal, it says in there as you go into it, like, that subtitle is an extrapolation of what she talks about. When in the article, she specifically says that her goal is to go study psychology, is to be a psychology major. And that's what it says is her to achieve dreams, psychology major. But you could naturally, for me, that'd be like, okay, her goal is to attain the degree in a degree in psychology, to have that as her major. Even if that's not even what she was saying. She's saying she wants to go to school to study it. Now, she could be, and theoretically, is implying that she wants to get the degree, which obviously if you're going to school, like that's what you want. That's not actually what she says, though. She says she wants to go to school to study it, which I am all about being a lifelong learner. I am all about continuous education, as you know from the show and what we're doing now. Like the way that I feel my goal is to help educate and to continue to educate and to continue to educate myself so I can continue to educate y'all and provide you tools and resources so that you can be better. And so part of that, we talked about it last week. Words matter. Like, she doesn't say that her goal is to attain a degree. Even if she did, even if she said that, that is a horrible goal. Like, that is an awful goal to have. Now, you might be saying, like, how could you possibly say that getting a degree is a horrible goal? Well, think about it like this. She in the article talks about wanting to study psychology. We can infer that she wants the degree. Never one time in the article does she say what she wants to do with it. Never once, not even a hint. I can't even extrapolate or infer what her motivations for getting into psychology are. Like, there was no, my deep and long embedded need to assist people, to help people in clinical psychology to overcome their fears, or to help married couples through struggles because my parents were divorced and it really messed me up as a kid, or like with domestic abuse, and to provide traumatic counseling, or that to soldiers who come back with PT. Like, nothing, not a single gosh darn thing that says why she even wants to study psychology. All we know from this article is that she wants to study psychology. Well, that is adorable, and I think that it is great that you want to study psychology. What in the crap for? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with the degree? What do you want to do? Not even take away the degree. Take away that information. Maybe she doesn't even care about the degree. She just wants to study it. What for? Like, this is my problem. This is why this was so awful. And it's because, okay, so you might be like, that's a little bit harsh, Matt. Like, come on. She's trying to make herself better. She wants to study. Obviously, she wants to help people. Again, we're extrapolating. We're polling this. We don't know why. We don't know what the motivation is. But so why does it matter? Why do I care so much? Why am I like heated up about this? It's because let's go back again to the good and bad that we talked about. Okay? So she said, I try not to get my hopes up, right? And she said, I'm making plans for when I received another rejection letter. Okay, let us do some inferring and some extrapolation from this. If your goal is to study a topic, and that's the goal, let's say that let's go ahead and infer. Let's say that her goal is to actually get the degree. What happens when your route, like you can go to different schools to get a degree, to get like the same degree. It won't have the same college name on it, obviously, but it doesn't sound like that was really like a big thing. She never mentioned that she wanted a psychology degree from X, Y, and Z university. She just wanted to study psychology. What happens if you cannot perform to the level that you are accepted into the psychology program to become a psychology major. When that is your goal, what happens? What do you fall back on? What plans was she making? Go work at Burger King? Like, it, you when you don't have when your goal is that short-sighted or that unclear or that frameless or that really kind of essentially like overly framed and specific, where you want like the study of psychology must occur in a university, and it is only validated through a degree. Outside of that, then I can't study psychology, would be the inferred alternate route. Because if this is her goal, is to go study psychology there, and she fought so long and hard to get it and to study it in school, and then she can't, then like, okay, well, I can't study psychology, so what else am I going to go do now? Like, that is unbelievably mind-blowing. And the problem is that like she could be that person that drops out of college and then goes and works at Burger King, or maybe maybe she goes and catches an office job and eventually works her way up to be a manager. Great, has nothing to do with psychology. But it's the point is that if you don't frame it right, if you don't look at the goal and what it is that you actually want to accomplish, you're setting yourself up for an awfully treacherous tightrope that you're going to have to walk. Like, it has to be this or it's not going to work. Like, if you can't, let's reframe it, right? Let's think about it in a way like, how could she do this? So, like, for you right now, if you are a person that finds yourself in a similar boat, and this goes out almost specifically, almost solely to these groups of people, but it can be to anyone, and you can take this to have it work in wherever you're at. But when I'm thinking about vets like myself who are getting out or who have gotten out and are going to school, and part of that transition is, hey, you need to go to school, you need to get a degree, you need to get a degree, you need to get a degree, or you're going. It's the same exact message is pushed when you're in high school. You got to get a degree. You got to get a degree. You got to get it. It doesn't even matter. You just have to get a degree. If you want a good paying job, you have to get a degree. Okay. So that's not true for one, but that's a whole nother topic. But the point is that we're pushing people towards a goal that's not really a goal, right? We're pushing people to make a goal out of a benchmark, is what I like to call them. Is like your tiers, right? You have like your tasks that are kind of like the daily or weekly stuff that you're doing, kind of the habits or the systems that you put in place that work towards these benchmarks, right? These benchmarks can be like your 90-day splits, where you review quarterly, like, I need to get this done in order. But all of those, so these tasks and these systems feed into these benchmarks, and the benchmarks feed into a goal, right? And so, but the problem with this article, and it's not even with her, it's with the way that we're thinking about goals nowadays, is that we're not looking at them correctly. We're not using right thinking when it comes to the creation of goals, because your end state cannot be the beginning, right? Like the end state of college is getting a degree, which leads you to the beginning of something else. But if you're not viewing it that way, if you don't view the degree is winning, the degree is success, then you're gonna have this lull afterwards, like, oh, what do I do? It's kind of like when you get out of the military, like, you get down and you're like, oh, what do I do? Like, I've just had all of this structure. In the military, you have your hierarchy, you have your leadership, you have your timelines and your expectations. When you're in school, you have classes you have to sign up for. You have this list and all these numbers. You have to get this many credits, and I have to attend this type of course, and I got to go here and do that. And then after that, then I can plan the next one. And then you get done. You're like, well, my goal was to get the degree. Now I got the degree, and now I'm done. And now, yeah, now I got to get a job. And I always knew that, but like the goals were always get the degree. Now the job should just come. And that's where we get into a problem with like the expectation. What happens to this gal when she gets her degree? Is she gonna have the plan set up to work hard at the bottom in order to get yourself somewhere that matters? Because that's a huge problem, is that when we view this degree as the goal, then we're not seeing the world for what it is. We're seeing it for this one little tiny path, right? And it's, you can't, like, your goals should feed into something bigger, right? Your benchmark should feed into something bigger. It's hard to do that goal. It's harder to do that goal to goal than it is to do benchmark to goal, right? So if you're not consciously thinking about the goal to goal, that's when you can get yourself messed up. And that's why setting yourself as the degree as the goal is really difficult, because you really have to keep in mind that, like, once I accomplish this goal, like running a marathon, then if I don't have something lined up afterwards, like I could fall really bad. I could be in great shape after running and working hard and lifting and like making sure that my body is fully conditioned to go out and run 26.2 miles. But then afterwards, if I didn't have like another goal, and this is why that's not a benchmark. If my marathon isn't building up to like an ultra marathon or running like this marathon in this amount of time next time, then that's the goal. Right, then it's not a benchmark because it ends, right? It ends there. And so if we're at the summit of the mountain, and that mountain is the marathon, if you didn't have other goals that you're ready to put into the queue, your way at the top is down, no matter which direction you go in, right? Like, you're no longer fighting for that thing. If you're no longer fighting for that degree, then you're like, oh, I have to rewire myself to do it. And so that's the problem with looking at the degree as the goal. It's not the goal, it's the benchmark. And the problem that comes with it, because that's easy enough, but the problem with that is the mental framework, is the narrative that, like, I get the degree and I won and I did it, but that's not it. When you change the frame to, like, I want to help people, I want to help people overcome trauma that they've had in their lives, then the degree is just a route to get there. It's just a benchmark. And it means that you could probably find, if that goes south real hard for whatever reason, then you can find other ways to still fulfill that type of meaning, that type of purpose that creates that type of meaning for you. And that's what I want you guys to do. And that's why I was so perturbed. It was so, why this got me so riled up this morning. Because I read it, I'm like, oh, she misses it. I wish I could reach out and talk to her and be like, hey, no, like, you're so close. Like, I love that you have a goal. But, like, let's just think about the structure of it, because you're setting yourself up potentially for failure. Again, a lot of this is kind of guesswork. I don't know what's really going on in her life. It doesn't really matter. The point is that if you set yourself up this way, you're setting yourself up for hardships, not necessarily failures, but for hardships that are not necessary, that are self-induced and unnecessary. And I want you to avoid that. But I think that we did it, man. I think that we hit it. And so I wanted to end, just by reminding you guys that on the Matt and Adam Show, we do have that series coming out, and I really think it's going to be a powerful way to end 2020. So mattandadamshow.com, facebook.com/the Matt and Adam Show. Like, we're there. Anywhere that you find your podcast, YouTube, we're there too. We're starting to produce videos now like this. And we're excited to have you there. I'm excited. I love the fact that you guys are here. I think, I hope that you enjoyed this week. This was fun for me. It was a great chance for me to take something from somebody's real life and to be able to use it and exemplify it, or make it an example for you guys, so you could see when someone is like swinging and they're hitting the ball, but it's like it's foul, right? Like it's going not where they want. Like, they're making contact, and so it feels good, but it's not quite right. And so we can avoid that if you just think about it on the front end. And I hope that this show helps enable you to do that. If so, I look forward to seeing you guys here again next week for another episode on the Matt LaSalle Show. Until then, stay safe and treat yourself to something special as we get ready for the holiday season. See you guys next time.